there's a question about where do we go from here with the field. Again, in this book, Robert Kelly lays out, he doesn't call it a research agenda. I think it could be. I've not followed it faithfully. But what he's warning us about or cautioning us about is be careful to not use too narrow a lens. There is a certain tendency to study what we can measure, particularly, for requirements of doctoral dissertations, etc. And he wants to make sure that as a field, we engage with the world. And so what is the role of followership in world events? When we see things like the Velvet Revolution or the Orange Revolution, what is going on there where followers are changing a whole system? How does followership play out in different cultures? What is it what does it mean in Arab culture, for example? How is that different? What do we need to understand about that in order to perhaps engage differently and develop those kinds of skills to balance or to try to resist toxic leadership? What about socializing children? This is a huge issue. All of our children need to be socialized to respect authority, yet we seem to do too good a job of it often. And then we wind up, with again, this, the Milgram experiments, etc., where we have too much willingness to comply to authority when we shouldn't. How can we do that differently in early childhood development? What about the language of followership itself? If we're still uncomfortable with this idea of, am I really a follower? What are we going to do with that language? What are our choices? How do we explore that? And certainly, how do we do followership with a courageous conscience? That is the key driver of my own, again, it comes back to my own worldview and quest, that somehow, for the history of mankind, we have allowed people to move into leadership positions who then too often use those, particularly politically, use those for very destructive ends. How do we change that? How do we build into the fabric of the DNA of our cultures a different way of supporting positive leadership and disempowering early enough negative leadership before it becomes cancerous and you cannot stop it until a society completely becomes a nightmare? So there are very big topics to explore here. There's at least a generation's worth of research, I'm sure, and I hope that some of you will encourage people that you're mentoring, etc., or perhaps you yourselves will take up the mantle here.